What do you know of the character Darkclaw? This fella here. I know what you're saying. Boy, he looks a lot like a cross between Batman and the Wolverine. And what sort of brazen copyright defiling maniacs attempted this sort of madness? Marvel and DC did. See, at one point, the world was less angry, and Marvel and DC had more of a friendly competition than a I want to murder you competition, as our trillion-dollar media properties must compete with each other in a deathly game that no man will live through. And they, in fact, had a series of crossovers. And in one especially bold crossover, we gave birth to the Amalgam Universe. And there is in-universe reasons for this, but I don't want to go into them because they're weird and I didn't totally get them when I was a kid reading it. But what happens is the general response and implication of all of this is that there was a universe formed that combined Marvel and DC characters together in one. And one of them was in fact Darkwing, or Darkclaw. Darkwing is the duck. I'm thinking of the duck. Darkclaw! Amalgam Comics #1, where we combine Wolverine and the Batman. Now, to me, as I've argued this before, this feels like a weird combination. Well, it makes sense when you really think about it. These are characters who have a more darker attitude than others, but the two characters I've always argued for that are most likely Batman, comparable to Batman is the word I'm looking for. I've had a little bit, my blood alcohol level is elevated at the moment. You must forgive me for that. I apologize profusely to the people. I had a beer at dinner and I enjoyed it. So, the characters that I always thought were very comparable to Batman in the Marvel Universe, the obvious one, and this is obvious to anybody who has ever read comics, is Daredevil and Batman. They would be the most obvious crossover. And the other one I was thinking of is that in many ways, Black Panther is the true Batman of the Marvel Universe. If you really think about it, they're pretty much in the exact same position. Needless to say, Wolverine would not have been my first idea, yet, having said that, it is in fact a compelling idea to cross over Wolverine and Batman. But, do they pull this off? That is the billion-dollar question. So let's take a look at this comic and we can answer for ourselves if it's a yay or a nay. Now, my experience Darkwing is that I went to a fair when I was a kid, and I already knew who Darkwing was because I would read about this stuff, but I saw him painted on a fairground and I was very surprised to see that because I was like, oh, that's a super obscure character. He was right next to, follow me on this, Ben Reilly's Scarlet Spider. And it occurs to me, these characters must have been very cheap to license as opposed to the big guys, the big Peters and Bats and Wolves. So let's take a look at this comic. So we've got Legends of Darkclaw, Amalgam Comics. Ooh. The costume feel, this is my personal opinion, I always feel needed a little bit more yellow. Because I know there's some yellow here and here, but the helm being yellow always throws me off a little bit. I always felt it maybe need some yellow here or something just to match it. Something, I don't know, I imagine he gets caught on things quite a lot. So this is a scan, so we got little ads for games, including the two cornerstones of the young American male's life. of video games and breakfast cereals. It opens with darkclaw going black and white and red all over. It doesn't take a detective to figure out where your clue was pointing to, hyena. Well, I am confused, Logan. I am confused. But how does the Gotham... Oh, I read this issue earlier today in prep for this, and I didn't pick up on that because it's a newspaper. That's why it's black and red all over. That makes sense. Anyways, as you can see, Hyena, the Joker, is looking super buff and tough. So that's because he's the Joker, but he's also Sabretooth. And a little bit the Riddler, I guess, because the Joker doesn't do that. And he is expressing concern and consideration that he really wants to tell what's going on, what the attack is. And we get a sense pretty quickly that these two have been doing this dance frequently before, and that's the truth of that. So here's the next twist. Here's the next amalgam character. See here? It's an amalgam of Robin and Jubilee to the character Sparrow. Now, if you're curious, and you should always be curious about things, the crossover event where this happens, Marvel DC, Sparrow and Jubilee and Robin get into a fight, or have to fight each other because of cosmic shenanigans. But before that, they start dating. So it's an interesting thing that then they get merged together into one person. Anyways, and they trade. So Joker and Hyena are trading barbs with each other, as you're wont to do. Also, we established pretty quickly that Logan here has a healing factor. So this is one of the rare powered Batmans with powers that we see in comic books. Fight. Oh my, how uncharacteristically droll. Have we been staying up late and watching the Comedy Channel? I like that apparently. Hyena here, I guess, is a big fan of Mystery Science Theater 3000 because that was mostly what they played on the Comedy Channel. And the Joker, Hyena, manages to get away by employing a devious tactic of just shooting at I keep wanting to call him Darkwing. It is so hard for me not to call him Darkwing, but I know it's Darkclaw. Oh, this is killer time to be alive. We've got an ad for a Primus CD. I'm no putty tat. And Sparrow violates what Darkclaw wanted and brings the Darkclaw Batcopter to save him, and they escape. And this is where we see the next part. And this is the Huntress, Carol Danvers. Yes, this is Captain Marvel / the Huntress. And she's breaking into the apartment of the richest man in, I don't know, is Gotham City. Logan Wayne. I wonder who Logan Wayne is. There's a pretty bizarre description of him. So here's how they describe Logan Wayne. Logan Wayne is, I have disabled the alarm system and now entering the penthouse loft of one Logan, techno-wizard, painter, sportsman, and walking enigma. You do... Techno-wizard is a strange descriptor term, and I remember reading a review of this that was pretty incensed by what a techno-wizard could possibly be. It's a euphemism for a tech mogul, somebody good with technology, is the answer. He doesn't literally have technological powers, but it is a strange way to describe something. I like that he's a painter and a sportsman. So Logan seems to have a much more varied set of interests than Bruce does. We never really find, which is interesting because I don't know if Logan really is that. Also, I don't know. He professes the fury of feral slashes. That's funny. So many ads for so many things. And I have to turn it around? Oh, that's cool. They're Fighting American and Voice Ranch. They're doing that's fun. I don't know why I'm talking about this. They're doing this now. I'm glad that they did it then. This is the 90s. I was born in the 90s, so I was like, what, 2? 3 maybe when they were doing this? So this is one of my favorite things. For some reason, I find, let's see if I can zoom in, right? I can zoom in. I find this image right here of Logan Wayne smiling to just be so funny. I don't know why. It's just like the smile looks so pained and it looks so off to see Wolverine in a suit. I don't know. There's just something so funny about that. Listen, I know he wears a suit frequently as Patch, but he doesn't have an eye patch and a white suit. No, this is just like a standard business suit. Hey, how's it going? Good to see you. But anyways, this is the big twist of the thing. He served in Southeast Asia, and apparently that's a big thing. And this is Creed. And to be fair, Logan maybe not is as smart as he says, because there's something funny to me about that he keeps his costumes just hidden. Not really that secretly. I'm surprised more people haven't found out. You are the Huntress, aka Kara. A secret passage in a closet wall. And the two of them get into a fight, but it's not that big of a deal. And we get the backstory for this guy. So basically, the backstory for Logan is it's an amalgam with shock, right? Shock. So it starts off like Bruce, that his parents get murdered, and then he gets sent to live with his uncle in Alberta, and then his uncle dies, and he's an orphan, and then he joins the army, and then he becomes Weapon X experiment, and now he's come back and is rich again. Also, they were trying to create the perfect killing machine, and the experiment turned Creed to the hyena, but they've served together in war, and he was a failure of a weapon. And apparently the Huntress is a CIA kitty, which that makes sense. And we reveal that Hyena is planning to blow up big guy in charge of USA. Scared to actually say it because people might have trouble for saying it. But fortunately, we have an ad for Spot the Hot Deals. Loud Lucy from... what band is this? Oh, hello, Modern Atlantic? Oh, I don't know. Okay, I gotta call that number. Vampire Dark Ages. Who would it have been Clinton at the time who was president? I always find presidents funny in comic books because they're all generic old men that they never want to say too closely which president it actually is, when we know it's Batman. It's Batman as president. I want the quarterback. I like the realism. See, it's good. It is funny that he attacks Air Force One first, and he's like, the hyena is making an attempt on the president's life. It is funny that he attacks it first. I'll prove how dangerous it is by attacking the place. Then they'll know an attack will happen. So probably already on this plane. Well, he was correct. He was already on the plane. And you forgot about the adamantium. And the two get into a giant fight on the way down. And that was the crossover that warmed the hearts of millions of people and was so popular that it ended up on the side of a carnival next to Ben Reilly the Scarlet Spider, because I presume it was quite cheap to get the rights to that. So what does it say? So, I don't know. It was okay. A while back, I read a bunch of Elseworlds tales, and I gotta be honest, many of them I actually wasn't that impressed with. And the reason why I wasn't that impressed with them is because despite the gimmicks that they had, Batman in what if Batman was Green Lantern? What if Batman was Superman? So on and so forth. They were pretty boring because, and that might be controversial, but I don't care. They were pretty boring because essentially all they did was just contrive a way for Batman to be Batman again, or Superman to be Batman again. It's like the characters were the exact same, except they had slightly different costumes. And I didn't like that because I didn't think that was a true what if story. I thought that was boring. I thought that they didn't really make use of the environment. And what I like about this, and partly because it's a combination of two things that are big on their own, so they can't really violate it, is they have to honor both characters and make them feel like an actual character. So it does at times feel legitimately like a mix between Batman and Wolverine comics. Although it does lean a little bit more heavy on Batman, I guess, but it feels more earned than some random, if the two companies were just doing this by themselves. I guess the big question is, with these, if we really want to judge them on some sort of value, is could this work as a solo concept? I guess if we were living in an alternative universe, this is a big if, and Batman and Wolverine didn't exist, also big ifs, could this comic work? Well, first we have to establish how this alternative universe came about. Does that mean that Bob Kane and Bill Finger never existed? What confluence of events caused that? No, I don't know. Would I want to read this more issues of this? I don't know. So it's a little generic, honestly, as a thing. It's not bad. I always struggle with stuff like this because there are a lot of great comics out there and there are a lot of really bad comics out there. And then there are a lot of comics that they're basically just okay. The most interesting thing about this is the history behind it and the weird crossover. And could Dark Claw have worked? I don't know. I was talking before about how I don't think this was exactly logical, but the more you think about it, Wolverine is a character from a film noir. More of a, he is in many ways he is essentially like a Sam Spade or a world weary detective just trying to make his way through the world. And Batman is noir, is very always takes on the form of noir. There are always film noir is about cities and the way cities and crime are birthed from each other, and world weary protagonists who feel crushed by the weight of a city. And although that theme never really pops up much, Wolverine could very easily fit into a film noir setting of Batman. So I don't know. Could this have worked? Was it supposed to work? That's another question I have. I've always been curious about the Amalgam universe because I do wonder if these comics have been successful. Was Marvel and DC maybe planning in the back of their heads, well, if they're successful, we'll make more and we'll have a whole new franchise we can co-own together? Because there have been points in history, I'll talk about this, there have been points in history, let me find it, the time Marvel almost bought DC, where I've heard about this before, but I don't know oh my god. I hate, just random tangent, I hate when websites immediately ask you to subscribe to their newsletter. Let me read the thing for a couple of minutes before you do that. Don't you think it would make more sense that people would immediately, if people are enjoying your content, give them 20 minutes and then pop it up and they're like, you know what, I'm enjoying what I've been reading. I'll read more. Anyways, implying on you, Newsarama / Games Radar, not, okay, anyways, so just, but I'm, okay. But basically, they almost got the rights. A few times, in fact, they almost got the rights to publish Marvel. Marvel almost got the rights to publish DC characters, and it was going to turn into a DC imprint. DC was going to turn into a Marvel imprint. What a weird world that would have been, right? So, I don't know if Dark Claw could have been successful. Maybe. It's not bad, honestly. It's not like a masterpiece, but it has bones. It has potential. But it's hard to talk about these sorts of things because the backstory behind it is interesting, but the comic is nothing revolutionary. It is a pretty decent, it is a pretty middle of the road to decent version of this type of superhero. It's conducted by old pros who know how to write this stuff in their sleep, but I don't know, it doesn't really claw its way out of the pile of these types of comics that existed in the 90s. I would rather the team get the chance to just create something original on their own, but we don't do that anymore, or back then.